Welcome back to our discussion, The Future of Networking, sponsored by Sienna Government Solutions here on Federal News Network. My guest today is Jim Westorp, Chief Technologist at Sienna Government Solutions. I'm your moderator, Tom Temin. And Jim, I wanted to get into the 5G question. This is really the major technology that seems to be dawning on us. And people think of it in terms of what you can do on your smartphone.
Yeah.
But as you see it, there's a lot more to 5G as a major networking medium than that. So maybe let's talk about where we're headed with 5G and what agencies can avail themselves of.
Yeah, sure. So, of course, as an network equipment provider, Ciena is very interested in 5G. It historically drives, pulses of investment in network infrastructure. And 5G is the next generation of the wireless protocols and technologies that are going to be supported by mobile. And there's a huge capital push that started and is really going to peak in the next few years as pretty much almost all of the wireless networks in this country are going to be upgraded. So, and some of the characteristics of 5G that impact companies like Ciena, right? So we're not at the radio side, so we don't see the interface between your cell phone and the cell tower. But pretty much as it comes down from the cell tower and then goes into the wider area network, that's where infrastructure companies like Ciena see it. And a lot of people don't necessarily think about it because they don't have to. You pick up your phone, you make a call, it's wireless, right? Well, yeah, it's wireless up, basically 2 miles away when it hits the tower, and then it goes into a classic fiber optic infrastructure network to go across the country to a cell tower that's 1 mile away from the guy you're talking to or person you're talking to. So there's a lot of physical network infrastructure that has to be involved to make the mobile wireless infrastructure work. And one of the things associated with 5G, of course, capacities are going up. 5G are supporting higher capacities, lower latency, better security. All that is underpinning a lot of the protocols. And one of the key things actually is that from a protocol level, from the tower back into the network, that part of the network used to be layer 2, used to be just Ethernet packets. And because of the increased dynamics and the ability to support new services like wireless internet connectivity to the home and business and things like that, actually we're moving from Ethernet to internet protocols or IP protocols at the base of the tower. So there's a whole new set of functionalities, a whole other layer of the network that needs to be supported closer to the edge of the network than it had been before. And timing becomes a lot more critical, again, because of all the kinds of handoffs and the kinds of high-speed dynamic nature of the network. So a lot of interesting things technologically happening at 5G. But bottom line is there's a new generation of switches and routers that have to be deployed at pretty much every single tower, and of course new radios, et cetera. And because of the capabilities of 5G, it's driving a new set of capabilities from an application perspective, and that rolls down to the equipment as well. And we're seeing interest not only in the classic wireless kind of networks and the wireless backhaul, which is where companies like Ciena comes in, but 5G is also being looked at in the enterprise as well. So this would be in smaller places like inside a building or inside a warehouse, being able to support 5G there. So again, you can use it's kind of seamless connectivity between your mobile devices inside the building and outside. And that's, I think, something very interesting that's going on in the network as well.
Yes, because for many years, people have talked about the idea of network convergence, the single wire for all purposes, as opposed to the way it was many years ago. You had coax here and category 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, the different fiber, the different wiring types. Yeah.
So what do you believe that the next generation of networking architecture will look like pursuant to this idea of simplifying and high speed?
Yeah. It's still in flux, and I would say, so when you're talking about inside the building, enterprise type connectivity, of course, Wi-Fi has been ubiquitous inside the building if you want high capacity inside the building without tying up your more expensive wireless. So that's historically what's happened, and with the capabilities that 5G has been designed with, those protocols actually, those newer radios, et cetera, are actually able to support in the building applications in a similar vein to Wi-Fi. So it's a little too soon to say which one is going to be dominant. I suspect we're going to end up with both, but there's certainly a desire with a number of government customers, which we're encouraging is to, for next generation Wi-Fi, if you will, instead of upgrading, redoing all your access points, just make them 5G, and now you can have a seamless protocol, one wire, if you will, or one wireless wire, of traffic and application services, both inside the building and without. And so a lot of folks are interested in supporting what's called enterprise 5G, which you can be thinking of as in the building connectivity, wireless connectivity.
Yeah, so a lot of possible change here. I just want to diverge for a moment and ask you that, looking across government customers that you deal with, what applications are they using for these modernized network and all of the high speed that's available? I know customer experience is a big push coming, from the Biden administration.
Yep.
And so the purpose of networks is to run data for applications, right? Ultimately.
Yeah. From an applications perspective, we can talk about, DoD and intelligence community, some very specialized applications, but by and large, the applications that government runs are similar to the ones that are run in the commercial and civilian industry. So the government is running Office 365 and email and the various cloud app. Actually, in some cases, they're standing up instances of an Amazon cloud or a Microsoft Azure cloud, inside their own data centers. And we can, at some point, maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the hybrid cloud strategies as well. But I would say the applications are very similar to what we're seeing in commercial industry by and large. And then there are absolutely special cases where we're talking about satellite downlinks and classified video and things like that. But the good news is the government applications and the commercial ones are very well aligned, and so there certainly is uniqueness, but the uniqueness is more on the software side than it is on the the network infrastructure side. We're able to construct a network that works as well for government applications as it does for civilian ones, and we can take advantage of that that overall scale of the market to bring modern networking critical infrastructure capabilities to the government, just like we do the rest of the industry.
And the issue of money comes up.
Yeah.
They'd love to modernize everything all at once. Nobody can do that. There's technology modernization funds that can have to justify. So one of the ways they look at investing in new technology is there ultimate cost savings for this investment? So what's your best advice for a strategy of using investment dollars that agencies have for IT? Where do you start as you modernize your network?
Yeah, that's a good question, and one that comes up with regularity, because budgets are always limited, and you never have enough. Now the good news is that in terms of whatever, there's a number of common metrics, cost per bit or cost per gigabit mile transported, things like that. All of those numbers are coming down in many cases dramatically. So the cost of transporting a bit of information across the network is dramatically, orders of magnitude cheaper than it has been even just 10 years ago. So that's the good news. The bad news is, if you will, it's kind of good news, bad news is that, of course, the amount of traffic that's going that wants to be carried. It's one of those deals where things get cheaper. What happens? It doesn't just get cheaper totally, because now market pricing says it's really inexpensive. We'll use more of it. And so we get that, and of course companies like Ciena, we love that. We have to support that. We have to support that more. So yeah, you're definitely going to see a bit of both.
Right. So once again, what's the best place to start with? Where can you get the most bang for your buck, do you think?
Yeah, and so the best way to start is really to look at your overall network, and we will typically have customers start at a portion of the network where the demand is growing the most. And that's where you'll want to do your tech refreshes and your upgrades. And the good news is that the way network infrastructure and equipment has been architected and structured today is you don't have to upgrade everything at once. You can do it a piece at a time and evolve. That's one of the reasons why we support multiple protocols and multiple, even some of the older, slower rates, we still support on all of our equipment, so that you can upgrade a portion of the network. It'll still be interoperable with the older equipment. And then as that portion of the network is modernized, you can even transition traffic from, we talked about SONET, you can still use SONET, but then you can over a period of time transition from SONET to Ethernet, and then move on to a different portion of your network as your needs be. So the most important thing is to do a network survey or network analysis, and beat it against what you think the growth plans are and the kind of applications that you're looking at supporting in the future. See how that's going to drive your demand, and then pick the hot spots in the network, if you will, and upgrade those first. So there's a consultative part, and Ciena has consultants that we can use to help with those conversations. And then it really is an evolution. It's not a big bang, because people don't have the money for it, and frankly, the big bangs are pretty disruptive. I mean, you do it if you had to, but that's typically not how we see it done.
All right. So mainly know where your hockey puck is going next.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank today's guest, Jim Westdorp, is Chief Technologist at Ciena Government Solutions. Thanks so much for a great discussion.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate being here.
I'm Tom Temin. You're listening to Federal News Network. And for more on this discussion, please visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Ciena Government Solutions.